Hi students, welcome to our class on machine learning. Myself, Dr. M. Tirupati Rao, working as Associate Professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, Vignan Institute of Information Technology, Visakhapatnam. So as part of our lectures on machine learning, so we are in the third unit discussing about the very important topic, that is the margin of a classifier. So far we had seen the two important techniques in this third unit, that is the linear discriminant analysis and principal component analysis. In our last lectures we had seen those two techniques. So today we are going to discuss about the another important topic in the third unit, that is the margin of a classifier. So what is this margin of a classifier? How it going to impact the next algorithms or the support vector machine algorithm? All these things we are going to discuss in the current lecture. So before going to these details, see, this is the syllabus you have in your third unit. So far we had covered all these topics. Dimensionality reduction we had covered, and algorithms like LD and PCS so far we had covered. So now today we are going to discuss the important topic, that is the margin of a classifier. So how you are going to fix this classifier and how it is going to impact the performance of a support vector machine algorithms, we will see in this lecture. The contents are these are margin of a classifier and support vector classifier. We are going to see both of them and how both are going to play a key role in the support vector machine. We will see this, and the objective and outcome of this lecture are the student can have a good knowledge about this classifier and support vector classifier, and the student can able to apply those two techniques in the support vector algorithms whenever they are using the SVM algorithm for the real time problems. So that is the outcome and objective of this lecture. So let us see this topic then. So road to SVM. So actually what is the logic here is that the margin of a classifier and support vector classifiers are the two important classifiers. Those two are going to play a key role in the implementation of this support vector machine algorithm. So how these two parameters or two models are going to play a key role for the SVM, we will see in this lecture. See, let us see. Support vector machine is a popular machine learning algorithm used in classification tasks, especially for its adaptability to non-linear separable data. So basically support vector machine is another machine learning technique, and basically it is mainly used for the non-linear separable data. So when the data is in the non-linear fashion, you will use this machine learning support vector machine model. However, before getting to what we use today, several models with the same underlying structure were developed so far. So in this presentation, I am going to give you the institution behind two of them whose progressive implementation leads to modern SVM. So both margin of a classifier and support vector classifiers are going to play a key role in the SVM implementation, and the whatever the algorithm which was developed by this SVM by using these two models was the modern SVM, we can say, and how these two factors are going to affect the SVM algorithm we will see here. See, those are the maximal margin classifier and of course support vector classifier. So these two are the factors we are discussing. However, before diving into this, let us first introduce its main objective of all the classifiers, which is the separating hyperplane. So separation of hyperplane is major role in the two parameters, that is the margin of classifier and support vector classifier. And once you may have the doubt that what is a hyperplane. See, hyperplanes are decision boundaries that help classify the data points. So basically hyperplanes are the boundaries for a decision to classify the data. So to classify data points, we are going to use some boundaries of data, and these boundaries of data can be considered as the hyperplane. So data points falling on either side of the hyperplane can be attributed to different classes. So a hyperplane, if you take like this, you can say this as a hyperplane. So whenever you have some variables, the variables may be down there at the upper side of the hyperplane or lower side of the hyperplane. So when the variables are being classified, once the classification of the variables has been completed, those classified variables may fall above the hyperplane or below the hyperplane. Any chance may happen based on the conditions or the circumstances we can see. See, getting familiar with the hyperplanes. See, if you have p-dimensional space, Suppose you are considering here as a p dimensional space where a hyperplane is a flat subspace with dimensions of p minus 1. So, if you are taking a dimensional space with the p as a hyperplane, then you are having the dimensional space dimensions of that subspace is the p minus 1. For example, in two dimensional space, a hyperplane is a straight line. Suppose whatever the hyperplane we are generating, it will be p minus 1. That means, if we have three planes, they are three dimensional data, we will get the number of hyperplanes is 2, because I told you p is the dimension, then p minus 1 is the subspace for this hyperplane. So, similarly, if it is a two dimensional space, then automatically we will get the one dimension, that is a straight line. Similarly, if it is a three dimensional space, the hyperplane we are going to get is a two dimensional subspace by following this one p minus 1 formula. In a generic h dimensional space, we define a generic hyperplane as, normally if you want to develop or give a general hyperplane equation, this is the equation with which we are going to represent a general hyperplane, that is the b naught plus b1 x1 plus and so on beta h plus lambda h equal to 0. This is the basic formula with which we are going to represent a normal hyperplane. Now, each vector x naught of variables can lie either on the hyperplane, then this equation can be converted as b naught plus b1 x1 star and so on beta h into xh of star is the equation. This is the for a new variable, that is vector x power star. Suppose the same equation can be converted as like this. So, or one of the two halves is, so similarly the same equation can be considered as b naught b1 x1 star is greater than 0, or similarly the same equation is less than 0. So, this can be used, or this can be mainly used because already I told you, whenever the classification of the data has been done, the variables might be below the hyperplane or above the hyperplane, like this. So, above the hyperplane or below the hyperplanes. So, for classifying these conditions, we are going to use this condition, that is greater than 0 or less than 0. In other words, for simplicity, let us consider the following bivariate case. We are considering a bivariate model. For that, we are generating the equation, or considering generating equation as b naught plus b1 beta 1 x1 beta 2 x2 equal to 0. A bivariate means we are having two variables, and the equation for this model is the beta naught plus beta 1 x1 plus beta 2 x2 equal to 0. This is the basic hyperplane equation for our bivariate model which we are considering. Let us see how it will be generated as. By using this hyperplane, how the data can be classified, as I told you, x1 is in the x axis and y bar is having the x2 variables, two variables, and I told you the data can be calculated by using the hyperplane equation beta naught plus beta 1 x1 plus beta x2 is, if it is greater than 0, all the variables will lie above the hyperplane, and if it is less than 0, all the blue dotted lines or dots or data points, blue data points can lie below the hyperplane, and this is your hyperplane beta naught beta 1 x1 plus beta 2 x2 equals to 0 is your basic hyperplane model equation. So, this is your hyperplane, and with that you are going to make the variables in two directions, that is higher than your 0 value and less than 0 value. So, higher than 0 value will be considered as upper bound upper values, and the less than 0 value can be taken here as the lower bound values, which will be represented below the hyperplane. Similarly, if it is the greater than 0, will be represented above the hyperplane. So, that thing same thing here is the orange dots lie on the positive half of the plane. Positive half means above the hyperplane, that is greater than 0, and while the blue lies on the negative one, that is negative 1, that is less than 0. You can say it is greater than 0, it is less than 0. So, in this way we will represent the data in a hyperplane. The following is, it follows pretty natural henceforth to set a decision rule that classifies one observation depending on the side of the hyperplane it lies on. So, the decision will be considered or finalized based on the hyperplane where it is going and hyperplanes lies on. Namely, imagine we have down the best hyperplane on our train set where our target is a binary one, that is -1 or 1. Actually, we know for our example, it is a binary. Bivariate model means we have two variables. So the values may lie between the -1 and +1. Now a new observation x star occurs and we want to classify it. So the only thing we need to do is substitute. So now we are getting a new variable in the value, that is the x star. Now we want to classify it, which class it belongs to. For that, so the only thing we need to do is substituting this x star value in the expression of our hyperplane. So whatever the hyperplane equation we have already, we are going to represent, or we are going to replace this x star value what we have the new value in the hyperplane equation. If it is positive, we label it with 1, and if it is a negative, we label it with a -1. So that is, we are going to substitute this x star value in this one, and if the value is greater than 0, we are taking it in the positive, that is +1. If the value is less than 0, we are representing that with the -1. See? So in this, so beta naught, beta 1, x1, beta 2, x2 is greater than 0, that is positive direction, we are representing all oranges. It is less than 0, which is -1, we are representing all the down the hyperplane. This is our hyperplane. Now the new variable, that is the green one which had arisen newly, that is x star. We can call it as x star. So by calculating the value, we thought that it is the value is greater than 0. So we are replacing that in the +1 category, that is the above the hyperplane. So why? Because in the class you see here, the value which we got is after substituting the x star value here, x star value in the equation, we are getting it is greater than 0. So greater than 0 means obviously the value which we are going to take is the +1 value. So we are representing our new variable in the positive side, that is the upper limit of the upper boundaries of the hyperplane. So now we are actually moving to this maximum or maximal margin classifier. So how we are going to calculate this? If you look again at the picture below, we see that the hyperplane was drawn in a way such that all the observation lines are correctly classified. So if you see same, we are having the same x1 variable, x2 variables we have, and we have two sets of data. One is represented in the orange one, second one is represented in the blue color one, and whatever the data we had represented here is the positive side, which is greater than 0, and these are the negative side, which is less than 0 values. This is clear. Now we have done so many observations for several variables, and we had run so many hyperplanes. This is hyperplane 1, you can say, 2 you can say, this is 3 you can say, and this is 4 you can say. So 4 hyperplanes we had run for the different variables. It means that in a training set of size n, for all I equal to 1 to n, we have that. That means we are taking n value, and our n value is varying from 1 to n, that is I value varies. So for all each variables, we have drawn the hyperplane with the formula yi of b naught plus beta naught plus beta 1 xi1 and so on beta hih is greater than 0. That means what should we pick? The idea is that we want to maximize the distance between the boundary and the points so that the algorithm is well generalized. So main reason is we need to increase the distance between these points with the hyperplane such that the value can be maximized. With that, the classification can be done easily. That is the main logic we will implement here in this maximum classifier. Let us see how this can be implemented is, see here how this maximum classifier is identified. Compute the perpendicular distance between all the observations and the hyperplanes we are evaluating. So what we have to calculate? Perpendicular distance between all the observations. So these are the observations. This is the hyperplane actual we have. From this we are going to calculate the perpendicular distance between all the observations. So with this hyperplane, we are having the exact perpendicular on this variable and this variable as our hyperplane. Okay, we are calculating the distance. Pick the distance which is the shortest for each hyperplane. This is called the margin. So the variable which is having the distance less or minimum will be considered as the margin value. the best hyperplane is that for which the margin is maximized. So we want to increase the distance. So these two are the support vectors, 1 and 2 are the support vectors which are having the maximum distance between the variables. So we are calculating the perpendicular distance between the observations and the hyperplanes we are evaluating. Pick the distance which is the shortest for each hyperplane. This is called the margin value. The best hyperplane is considered is that for which the margin is maximized. Similarly, having the greatest margin means that not only all the observations are well classified, but also they are far from the hyperplane. Hence, we trust that it is a well defined boundary also for new observations. So you remember these 2 points. Having the greatest margin means when the margin is high between the variables, that not only all the observations are well classified. So having the high value or high value of this margin is give you the symptom that the classification of data has been done in a perfect way. Also, they are far from the hyperplane. Also, they are very far from the hyperplane. Hence, we trust that it is a well-defined boundary also for new observations. So, when the simple thing here we can understand is, this is your hyperplane you are taking. When you are calculating this distance between the variables, if the distance is more for the particular variable, then what he is saying, hence, having the greatest margin means that not only all the observations are well classified, but they are all far from the hyperplane. So this variable is very far from the hyperplane. So what does it means? Hence we trust that it is a well defined boundary also for new observation. So we are keeping this as a new boundary for this, for the new future observation. So once a new feature will come in future after, let me after 1 week or 10 days, if any variable falls near to this, so automatically we can consider this variable also will belong to the same limit, that is the lower boundary of this hyperplane. That is the main advantage of having the more margin. So that we are trying to find here the more margin, that is the more distance between the variable with the hyperplane. So notice the observations which determine the margin are called the support vectors. So whatever the observations which we are using to cancel or to determine the margin are called the support vectors, we call them. So a very nice property of support vector is that those are the only observations which actually affect the hyperplane. So the values of the support vectors are going to influence the hyperplane. Basically, all the observations can move around without changing the shape of the hyperplane. So as long as you are considering the support vectors from different locations, they can be calculated, but they are not going to change the size or shape of the hyperplane, what we are going to say. So far so good, but what happens if such a hyperplane doesn't exist? So far we have the elements to calculate with this margin of a classifier. So I am repeating again. So the margin of a classifier is mainly used to calculate the distance between the variable to the hyperplane. So as long as the distance between the element and the hyperplane is more, the main advantage is the local elements or the future elements or future new observations, whatever is being generated also can be included in the model in a particular group which are above or below the hyperplane. That will be an additional benefit of having the major distance between. Now the second case is, if we don't have that hyperplane, what we need to do? That is the second case or second problem we are arising. So far we have the hyperplane, we have some elements above the hyperplane, below the hyperplane. So by calculating the perpendicular distance between these variables from the hyperplane, we are calculating and we are making the element. That element may belong to either upper bound of the hyperplane or lower bound of the hyperplane. But now the question is, if that hyperplane in that graph doesn't exist, how we need to classify the elements? That is the another important case. So that can be calculated or done with the help of the support vector classifiers. So let us see that. So support vector classifiers. See, consider the following situation. Suppose in this graph, if you observe this fact, if you take a hyperplane, you need to draw this hyperplane. But what is the problem here? We are considering the problems where we don't have any hyperplane. That means we are not taking the hyperplane here. Now if you see the combination of elements, here you can say these are a combination of elements of orange color and this is a combination of elements of blue color. But what is happening here? A cross data has been placed or a wrong data has been placed in this group. That means blue color belongs to this group, that is group 1, group 2. You can say the group 1 stands for orange, group 2 stands for blue color. But what is happening here? In the orange group, 2 blue color elements are there. Similarly, if you come to this blue color, 1 orange element is there. So this is the data which belongs to other class is there in the duplicate data is there in the opposite class. So this is the case where the support vector classifiers are going to play the key role. How this can be done? Here, it simply doesn't exist a separating hyperplane. So I told you already in support vector classifiers, or in this case, a hyperplane is not there. So in such cases, how we need to identify this data and how we need to classify the data points to a particular group. See, hence we need to define another criteria to find it. So we need to go for another new criteria such that to identify the elements belongs to a particular group. How? The idea is relaxing the assumption that the hyperplane has to well segregate all the observations, but rather segregation most of them. The logic or the consideration what we are going to is the hyperplane is not going to segregate all the elements, but those elements which are important, which are more easy to handle, those elements were segregated. That is the thing we are writing. Well, relaxing the assumption that the hyperplane has to well segregate all the observations, but rather segregate most of them will be segregated by this support vector classifier. This is the assumption we are going to make in the support vector classifier such that to overcome the problem of this hyperplane non-existing. See how this is being done. So by doing so, we can allow with different degrees of softness some observations to be on the wrong side of the margin and eventually on the wrong side of the plane. See, if you observe this, we already have this x2, x1 and these are the elements. This is a group of elements with orange color and this is the group of elements with the blue color, and in this orange color one blue element is there and in this blue color group one orange is there. So how we get it? So we have generated so many support vectors here by calculating the distance between the hyperplane to those variables, and we are going to identify the elements which are placed on the wrong side of the hyperplane. See, blue color actually should be below the hyperplane, but it is at the top side of the or upper side of the hyperplane. So we are identifying this element as wrong side of the hyperplane, it is there. Similarly, in this blue color, this orange color can be represented as wrong side of the margin, it is there. So in this case, the support vectors will be those observations lying on the margin and beyond it. So here the support vectors can be considered as those elements which are lying on the margin and beyond it. Those elements which are lying on the margin and beyond it can be considered as the support vectors which belongs to this group, which belongs to similarly this group. So the elements which were there above the hyperplane and on the line of the hyperplane both are considered for the same group. Maximal margin and support vector classifiers are both the basis for SVM, hence it is important to size their institution before diving into the final version of this class of algorithms. So in this way we are going to classify an object into a group, whether or we are going to identify an object that this particular object belongs to which class based on this support vector classifiers. So from this we had seen that if you have a new object or a new data point and you need to identify whether this data point belongs to which class by using this margin classifier or margin of a classifier or maximum margin of a classifier or support vector classifier. So basically these 2 points, 2 techniques are going to play a key role in the support vector machine algorithm. So by using this hyperplane mechanism, you are going to classify the new object into which side it belongs. Basically whenever you take a graph, whenever you are taking a graph, This can be your hyperplane, and whatever the objects which are lying upper bound are some of the objects lying below the hyperplane. So the condition is whatever the values is having the greater than 0 will be placed under this positive side, and the values which are having less than 0 will be kept at the negative side of the hyperplane. And by doing this, this hyperplane can be calculated by calculating the perpendicular distance between these variables. That is the important point. And the maximum highest distance the variable which is having will be considered here. Why? Because if the distance is more, automatically whatever the variables in future are occurring in this between this distance also can be simply classified belongs to this particular group itself. That is the main advantage of this. The second one is, if at all, if the hyperplane is not there, if at all you have the two types of variables 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 1 like this, so you don't have hyperplane. In those cases, you are going to use this support vector classifiers, where we are going to take this wrong side elements are there. That means an element which belongs to another group will be placed in this group. So we are going to ignore them, and we are going to count the elements which are there or lying on the particular hyperplane line, and other elements will be considered as support vectors in this model. So with this, we can conclude these two models, that is the margin of a classifier or maximum margin of a classifier and maximum support vectors. So these are the textbooks which were prescribed in your syllabus. So whenever you have some free time, you go through these textbooks. I have given some of the textbooks which were machine learning applications, and machine learning can be implemented through Python also has been given, and some of the reference textbooks also given for better understanding of the topics. So whenever you have some free time, you please go through these textbooks. And these are some of the references I had used for preparing this lecture. And thank you for giving me this opportunity. Thank you, one and all. Thank you.